さて村松さん、IoT の未来に向けた心構え的なことは、このウェブの話で理解できました。次は、そこで利用するテクノロジーですね。これからスペシャルゲストとして、インテルからスティーン・グラハムによる Delivering Business Outcomes at the Edge と、マイクロソフトからニコル・デニルによる Preparing for a New Era of Business with Azure IoT and Mixed Reality という題目でプレゼンテーションを皆さんと共有したいと思います。この2つ揃って30分程度となりますが、ぜひお楽しみください。それではインテルから開始です。
Intel's new CEO, Pat Gelsinger, once said, "Today is the slowest day of technology innovation for the rest of your life." And as computing is becoming woven into the fabric of everything we do, every industry, every vertical and marketplace, we see a huge opportunity for transformation. The physical world as we know it is now becoming connected to the internet, far exceeding the data that was created based on social media. The physical world data is creating a massive explosion of data. And as we know, data is the strategic differentiator for the world we live in and has the opportunity to transform industries and enrich our lives. I'm thrilled today to be speaking at the Advantech Connect Partner Conference, because those of you that are here today are at the forefront of this innovation, and many of you have been at the forefront of this innovation for decades upon decades. And now we're unleashing tools, edge computing powered by 5G, IoT, and AI to deliver on this incredible opportunity. I'm going to discuss both this opportunity, but the pace of change and how it's only being accelerated in the world we live in today. Talk about a few incredible solutions from Advantech and partners that are addressing some of the challenges we're seeing in the midst of a pandemic. And talk about how Intel is positioning our product line to deliver faster time to business outcomes at the edge, ultimately delivering on the promise of edge computing. And finally, I want to showcase an incredible set of solutions and a vast portfolio from Advantech and its partners to transform these industries today. But I'd like to start with a quote from Andy Grove. Andy Grove was the 1997 Time Person of the Year and former CEO of Intel. And Andy once said, "You could be the subject of a strategic inflection point, or you can be the cause of one." And what Andy meant by that is your business could be disruptive by this massive amount of change, only accelerated by the pandemic. Or you could be the disruptor. You could harness this technology from Advantech, Intel, and others to drive transformation in these industries and take advantage of this opportunity. Perhaps there's no better data point than the level of disruption that we're seeing today is the amount of time companies are spending on the S&P 500 index. In the 1960s, it was well over 30 years. Over the course of the next decade, you'll see companies will get down to only a decade on the S&P 500 list. And again, this is only accelerated based on the pandemic. The trends of technology that we're seeing are only accelerated as people move online to work, as they move online to deliver their food and eat and drink, as they use modern technologies to stay safer in our environment and avoid this pathogen that exists in the world today. And finally, to enhance the way we live and work, being able to make sure we have fresh and high quality air, controlling our temperatures, and doing this in an environmentally positive way. So as I alluded to, there's many incredible examples how Advantech in their ecosystem is stepping up to deliver on the challenges of today. And probably there's no better example when you look at a respiratory-based pathogen than being able to monitor the breathing of patients and improving patient outcomes. Advantech, using technologies like Intel's OpenVINO toolkit to enable accelerated AI performance, our core processors, and our VPU-based acceleration technology, have been able to give doctors greater insights on the breathing patterns of patients so they get early alerts on that patient health. Critically important for doctors. Perhaps equally important is making sure that the spread of the pathogen is reduced. In delivering technologies that allow us to monitor physical distancing, observe body temperature, and understand if people are wearing masks or not, such that the pathogen won't spread, powered with AI capabilities, we're able to do this with existing technologies and toolkits with our OpenVINO technology. And in this particular example we're showcasing, we've seen over a 10x performance improvement in those visual AI workloads that enable those compelling use cases like physical geospatial analysis, body temperature monitoring, and mass detection to avoid that spread of that pathogen. One of the challenges, though, we've seen over the course of the last year is our supply chain is rapidly changing, and we've needed to produce new goods and services to address the new trends that we're seeing in the world today. And there's great examples that Advantech and its partners have delivered based on Intel technology to do just that. One example, as I'm showing here, is vibration monitoring. Vibration is a great indicator of whether or not equipment will fail. And using technologies like AI, we're able to run analysis on top of that vibration to determine an early failure of equipment. And this is critically important for driving uptime in manufacturing environments, which both drives top line and bottom line results. Those are just three examples of a world we're seeing transform, a world where we've really been in this cloud era of computing. Now we're starting to understand this paradigm shift to the edge, this new distributed computing paradigm where we place the workload where it's critical and needs to run best. And as you can see, over the course of the next decade, over 75% of data will be created outside of those central data centers. There's over $65 billion opportunity with a high growth CAGR to achieve the outcomes we see here and drive transformation. But why? Why are we talking about edge computing today? We've been doing edge computing for decades upon decades, but perhaps it's most important on the confines of four laws. The single most important or most commented law, I'd say, is the law of physics. We're limited based on the speed of light, and we need to place the compute workload as close to the source of the data as possible, especially in real-time applications in some of our most trusted infrastructure, like autonomous vehicles or autonomous mobile robots, or safety environments in manufacturing facilities where humans and machines interact. The second law that's driving the transformation to edge computing are the laws of the land. And it's critically important that we comply with local and regulatory laws. Laws like GDPR, laws like HIPAA in the healthcare domain. Edge computing, by processing and anonymizing data at the edge, is a critical element in compliance with those regulatory environments. The third law that we look at is the laws of economics. We're creating an explosion of data at the edge, but not all of it is particularly valuable. And even more so, it may not be valuable for an extended period of time. The half-life of the data at the edge is much shorter than in the cloud. And so what we have with edge computing is we're able to analyze that data with AI in near real time, discard the irrelevant data, and keep only the helpful insights in the metadata and send those up across the network to be stored and analyzed further in the cloud. And finally, the most important law that's driving the paradigm shift to edge computing is Murphy's Law. Anything can fail will. And as you know in the industry, whether it's manufacturing, whether it's retail, whether it's our cities and our traffic infrastructure. It's incredibly important for these tasks to stay up. They can't go down. We're not managing social media data here with downtime. We are managing some of our most trusted infrastructure in the physical world, and we need to add that additional layer of fault tolerance. Edge computing does just that by placing the workload fault tolerant close to the source of the data, so we ensure that we get the uptime needed to drive these industries moving forward. But there's many challenges as it pertains to edge computing. There's so much complexity. We're seeing a convergence in the OT and the IT and the CT space, the operational technology, the communications technology, and traditional IT workloads are all coming together. We're seeing a convergence in developer ecosystems, where embedded systems developers are now being met with cloud developers coming from the cloud to the edge. We have a plethora of vendor solutions in the marketplace today that add so much complexity. If you look at your installed infrastructure, your new infrastructure, such a range of solutions. Delivering on the promise of edge computing, though, with an optimized total cost of ownership is increasingly challenging as well. Making sure that we can deliver flexible workloads on infrastructure so we can run both CT workloads, IT workloads, and OT workloads, and deliver on that promise of software-defined infrastructure. Infrastructure that scales with your business. Infrastructure that pivots when your manufacturing product line needs a pivot. It's increasingly challenging. And bespoke solutions. Everything seems custom sometimes. So how do we know if we're going to put together this incredible amount of work to deliver an edge computing system, if it can be repeated, if it can be deployed from branch to branch and company to company? Because the upfront costs are so high in delivering that. And ultimately, as we built our computing platforms for the personal computing era and the cloud computing era, how do we optimize those platforms for the physical world we live in? Whether it's as simple as the rich I/O to meet the physical world, or it's advanced as taking a big neural network in the cloud and driving it down to the size it needs to fit on your installed infrastructure at the edge, or securing your endpoint application and the data flow as that endpoint application flows from the edge back to the cloud. There's increasingly challenges in connecting to the physical world, not to mention getting the talent required to do just that as well. Well, how are Intel looking to solve those challenges? What Intel brings to the table is the most diverse product portfolio, and we're adding edge-specific optimizations to our processor lines and building purpose-built processors for the edge computing. So we're taking not only our core processors and our add-on processors and adding new capabilities like real-time computing and enhanced AI applications, but we have purpose-built Movidius VPUs for edge AI applications. And of course, if you want the ultimate in reprogrammability and future-proofing, you can have FPGAs as well. But it's increasingly important, if you introduce that complexity that's required to deploy in the physical world, that you also create software toolkits so developers can write just once and deploy across that diverse infrastructure, both installed infrastructure and new infrastructure. And that's what gives you the ultimate total cost of ownership. Getting AI installed on your existing infrastructure without additional capital costs. Our OpenVINO toolkit does just that. It unlocks the AI performance of your existing systems and tools, and it's optimized for our new purpose-built edge AI processors as well. We have other toolkits that are driving transformation in 5G, media-rich immersive experiences like augmented reality as well. It's an incredible set of tools for developers across the leading workloads that we're seeing at the edge. 80% of IP traffic, video, AI running on all of that data. And of course, we need networking toolkits because all of that data is moving because it's at the edge and it's going to move across nodes, both east and west, and also north and south. But perhaps there's no place where there's more innovation occurring than with you, with Advantech, its partners in this incredible ecosystem. And we built over 400 use case specific offerings with our partners through our market ready solutions portfolio. Everything from cold chain monitoring solutions to make sure your food is delivered healthy and safe, to autonomous mobile robots that are managing the world's inventory and supply chain challenges. It's an incredible set of solutions that have deployed over 20,000 times, 20,000 unique end user deployments, overcoming the challenges of bespoke custom solutions. And perhaps there's no better example of Advantech. It's an incredible ecosystem in delivering market-ready solutions that showcase industry transformations. Whether it's a leading portfolio of industrial solutions, smart cities and transportation solutions, or it's retail applications or health, as we've talked about today, Advantech and its ecosystem have delivered an unparalleled set of market-ready solutions and RFP-ready kits that allow enterprises to get the fastest time to business outcome. Because you don't want to create a bespoke solution if a solution today that exists already solves your challenging problem. Whether it's that predictive maintenance application using vibration analytics, or it's compelling solutions like solar management or smart retail environments, and so much more. So as I started off today, I mentioned a quote from our new CEO, Pat Gelsinger, that today will be the slowest day of technology transformation for the rest of your life. And I really believe that's true. But what's great news for us today is if you're here right now at this Advantech Connect event, you're being given a unique set of insights and tools to be able to address the challenges of that change. And as Andy Grove famously said, you can be the subject of a strategic inflection point, or you can be the cause of one. If you're listening today and learning from the Advantech leadership team and its partners, you're put in a position to drive those industry inflections and not have your business be disruptive. And I want to leave you with three things. Our opportunity, our collective opportunity has never been greater. The tools and the technologies have never been greater, and they'll only get better. But our partnership has never been more important. As an ecosystem, we have to come together to drive these transformations and enrich the lives of every person on earth. And if we do that together, we can drive this incredible industry transformation, but as I alluded to, also enrich the lives of humanity. So thank you so much. Really glad to be here. Thanks to the Advantech team. And I can't wait to see what incredible solutions you deliver with these technologies in the marketplace. Thank you again.
インテル。なんだか難しかったですね。結構辛口なトークもあったように思います。まず COVID-19 により世界が記録的なペースで変化している。生活様式であったり仕事のやり方など劇的に変化しているというメッセージに始まって、その次には企業に対してフォーカスすると。でその中でも企業経営の平均寿命が1964年には33年であったものが2016年には24年に縮まったと。その期間は52年かけて9年減少したという話がありました。これが今の予測になると2027年にはこの寿命が12年になると。これは2016年からわずか11年で12年も減少するという偉い時代になってきたと。そういうふうに言われていました。
厳しいですね、今の時代は。
はい。
戦略的な変化点、いわゆるパラダイムシフトにおける幹になれれば生き残れるし、そうでなければ倒産という、今はなきインテルの CEO アンディ・グローブの言葉、You can be the subject of a strategic inflection point, but you can also be the cause of one という名言を引用されてましたね。
はい。
アドバンテックとインテルはエッジ AI を使った患者の呼吸音モニターができるタブレットや体表面温度をモニターできるシステムを開発し提供していますね。
はい。そして今の時代はまさに IoT と AI。例えばインテルが共有した アドバンテックとの協業事例で、振動モニターシステムによる工場装置のダウンタイムの削減、メンテナンスコストの低減を実現したソリューションであったり、新型コロナに対応したエッジ AI のシステムなど、このような時代が必要とする課題解決をスピーディーに提供できることが、これからのビジネスに最も求められることだと強く言われていました。また、これらの実例からもわかるように、エッジコンピューティングは AI を含めてパラダイムシフトしているという、そういったことを強く感じます。